Of course, I'm an F1 channel. My name is, of course, Liam, and I am obviously the host of the Liam Talks F1 channel. But of course, yesterday was the anniversary. 9 years it's been since the Las Vegas 300 event happened. If you do not know what happened in this event, obviously, either you don't watch IndyCar, or as I've said many times in these sort of videos, you're new to motorsport. So this race was supposed to be a celebration of the 2011 IndyCar series, and there was a random fan and driver that could win $1 million, and the driver who had to win the race to get the fan the $1 million, and they'd share it, and the driver would have to start from the back of the grid. The driver in question was Dan Wheldon, a former, he drove an Indy car and won the title twice and won the Indy 500 that year due to J.R. Hildebrand's last lap crash. And he had plenty of experience in single-seaters and was a fantastic driver, probably one of the best not to drive in F1. He was so good, he beat the likes of Will Power and Scott Dixon, and as with these videos, they're not going to be very uplifting. So, obviously he started the race from the back, and he was also their in-race reporter, so basically they asked him questions on the formation lap, and, of course, he obviously answered the questions. 222 miles an hour is a very fast speed, and he was very, looking forward to the race. And unlike the usual 25 drivers who were in the field, there was 35 for this race, and this would be the cause of what would happen here. So, first couple of laps, not much really happened in the race. Wheldon had got up to 24th place from 34th on the grid, or 35th on the grid. However, on lap 13, there was a battle going on, and two drivers collided with each other. They were going, I think, 3 or 4 wide, and two drivers collided with each other, which meant one of them lost the back end. And as a result, the cars that were moving forward, it was a bit like 2020 Mugello, hit all the cars. Only 2 of them went airborne though, and there was a lot of contact. 15 cars were involved. Drivers such as Pippa Mann, I think her name is, Thomas Scheckter, obviously Jodie's son, James Jakes, Scott Dixon, I think, either Scott Dixon or Will Power, and Dan Wheldon were involved in the accident. And Wheldon was going for the inside on and making a move on 2 drivers who were slowing down for the accident. And unfortunately, he was one of the 2 drivers that went airborne, along with, I believe it was Dixon or Power, and hit the barrier along with Dixon. The car was on fire. And they red flagged the session straight away. They got the ambulance to come over, and I don't remember who it was. The medical helicopter had started to prepare for flight, and yeah, that wasn't a good sign. And everyone managed to get out of their cars all right, except Pippa Mann and a few others. Dan Wheldon was one of them, because Mann needed help getting out of the car due to how big the impact was. However, Wheldon was unconscious, and it didn't look good. Now, this is what's happened a lot in motorsport, and unfortunately, it's not the norm anymore, and it wasn't 10 years ago. Because obviously, in IndyCar and Formula 1, there's only been 3 casualties in the last 10 years. All 3 of them being from Europe. And at the young age of 33, Dan Wheldon unfortunately died at Las Vegas Speedway in 2011, at the end of the 2011 IndyCar series at the young age of 33, leaving behind a wife and a young child. And then there was another accident 4 years later at the Pocono 500, where leader Sage Karam crashed on, I believe it was the final lap of the Grand Prix, and as a result, a bunch of debris was all over the place, and most people managed to avoid the carnage. And one of the commentators was quoted as saying, "This has been a hectic race." And one of the drivers, though, unfortunately didn't manage to avoid the debris. This driver in question had driven for Jaguar and Jordan, I believe, in Formula 1. no, not Jordan, Minardi in Formula One. And this driver was Justin Wilson. He was heading round, I don't know what corner it was, but it was Pocono, and that's a very dangerous racetrack. And the tyre, like what happened with Ayrton Senna, and with Henry Surtees, the tyre hit him in the head, and unfortunately, at the young age of 38 or 37, Justin Wilson also died 4 years later at the Pocono 500. And then we'll talk about Henry Surtees' accident. So I believe his name was Jack Clark. He had a crash, I think it was Brands Hatch, and Surtees was heading round, and the tyre, if it had moved just slightly left, Surtees would have been fine, or right, it would have been fine. However, Surtees was coming in at a certain angle, and the tyre hit him on the head and fell right behind him. And it was such a tiny tap, and yet just the tiniest of taps sent him into the barriers, and as a result he was unconscious. And at the really, really young age of 19, Henry Surtees also unfortunately died. I have been on YouTube and I've seen all three of these accidents, and motorsport is extremely dangerous. And had the halo been there for two of these three accidents, both drivers would have survived. So if you guys did enjoy this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all for the next video. Bye guys, motorsport's dangerous.